Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back. Today's movie is Dead Before Dawn, and this came out in 1993. Another good Lifetime movie. So let's get started. The movie starts off with a mother riding bikes with her kids like through a beautiful suburban area. So there's a lot of greenery there, a sunshine. They're laughing and singing together. And when they arrive home, one of the neighbors is bringing the mom, whose name is Linda, a serving tray. And Linda is serving a very important dinner party for her husband. And she makes the statement that everything has to be perfect or her husband, Robert, is going to scream bloody murder. And her neighbor looks at her and says, the whole neighborhood has heard him screaming plenty of times. And Linda tries to brush it off, saying, like, you make it seem like there's something going on. And when her neighbor tries to express further concern, she just cuts off the conversation. So we get into the party. The party's in full swing. I want to call it a Mexican party, and I hope that's not offensive, because these are white, like this is a white family, quote unquote, but there is like Hispanic music playing. There's a how do you say it, mariachi band performing there, and I didn't get it because I'm like, if this is a dinner party for his business partners, I didn't get like having a specific theme for the party because it was just weird in my opinion. Because it's like, everybody's dressed up real fancy and randomly there's this mariachi band. But they send their children off to bed, but before they do, Robert introduces, his family, like showing off his family. So it's just what am I trying to say? To show that he has the perfect family. So it's like him, his wife, and they have a son and a daughter, you know. But side note, and this is just me speaking personally, because as he was introducing his kids, Stephen and then Kathleen, I believe was the little girl's name, but he had a cigarette in his hand, and he like literally put the cigarette like on the girl's shoulder as he was touching her, and I'm just like, so you don't care about your kid's health at all, just putting that all in her face. But anyway, Linda is in the kitchen with that same neighbor, I think, sending out more food for the guests. And as soon as the neighbor leaves out the door, Robert is bringing their son Stephen into the kitchen. Like, he has both of Stephen's arms in one of his hands, but he has them like raised above his head, so it looks to be very painful. And then he throws Stephen into Linda and says, why don't you know how to control him? And she asks him, like, what are you doing out of bed? And he says that he was just watching the party, but Robert says that he was annoying his business partners. And so Linda tells Stephen, go back to bed. I'll be there to tuck you in soon. And Robert like flings her back against the stove and says, the hell you will. He's too old for you to be tucking him in. So she's like, you know what? You're right. It's my fault that he was out of bed. I'm sorry. And he hits her. And it's like, as soon as he hits her, of course, the typical abuser, look what you made me do. No Taylor Swift. Somebody comes in. So he quickly like pulls her into him as if they're having a private moment together. And then when the guy leaves, he starts pushing her towards the stairs to go upstairs. And, she's just saying, I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt the children. Please don't hurt the children. So he's like, who should it be? Should I blame you or should I blame the kids? And she's like, blame me. I'll do whatever. Just do not hurt the children. So when they get upstairs to their bedroom, then we hear another slap and her scream. And then the screen, goes black. And then when it comes back to, Linda and the kids are in Oklahoma. But she's off on the side of the road because she got a flat tire. And at first it just seems like there's a man helping her out, but it's actually her dad. And so after he fixed the tire and he's looking at her face, he says, "Let me guess, it's Robert again." So it's just like, you don't know if they know about the abuse, but you know that there's been problems where she maybe runs off, he comes back to get her, like it's a back and forth thing. So later on that night, the kids are in bed, and I guess she's in her old bedroom. And her mom comes in and, just tells her, "You can tell me anything." And so she tells her mom, "I'm filing for divorce." And her mom just tries to comfort her and says, "Oh, Linda." But when she goes to, touch her shoulder, Linda gasps and backs away. And so her mom was like, "What is it?" And Linda shows her the bruise on her shoulder from the other night. So her mom says, "How long has this been going on?" And Linda says, "From the beginning." So her mom jumps up and says, "I don't understand you, Linda. It's bad enough you let him do this to you, but that you couldn't come to us?" And it's like, that's the worst thing you can do, is blame the victim for what's being done to them. It's just, and then, she wasn't ready to leave then. So say if she did tell you, but then she goes back to him, what does that do for you? What does that do for her? You can't blame the victim. Just let them process it on their own, and they'll figure it out when they're ready to do something about it. Because that's the worst thing. It's like domestic violence or any type of abuse to an adult, because this has nothing to do with children, but it's just like, until they are ready or until they have had enough, there's literally nothing you can do but watch on the sideline. Because if you try to butt in too early, then they'll blame you and tell you to mind your business. So you just have to deal with it. But anyway, back to the story. So Linda thought she could make things better. This is what she tells her mom. She's like, "I thought I could make it better, and over time he would change." But obviously that didn't happen. So now she's afraid for her own life and her children's life, because as we can see, he can also be sort of abusive to the kids, or at least to Stephen. So Robert comes home to an empty house and finds a letter on the dresser. She was Beyonce before Beyonce. She left a note in the hallway. And it was so... It's not supposed to be funny, but I'm a terrible person. So, because when he comes home, he's like, Linda. See, he just starts calling out everybody's name. So, of course, when he gets no answer, he's like, "If you're hiding, this isn't funny anymore. Where are you?" So then it's like another beat. He's like, "Where the hell are you?" I'm sorry. But it's just like that sort of panic or attitude he got immediately when nobody answered him. So after he reads the letter, I guess her telling him that she's leaving, he smashes her picture that was on the dresser onto the ground. And he drives to Oklahoma begging and pleading, but they don't let him in. They just let him stand outside. So her dad asks, but before that, because it was like he was ringing the doorbell like so many times, to the point that dad did open the door, and he says, "She may be your wife, but this is my house." And I was just like, what? That's all you had to say to him? But the dad doesn't know about the abuse. He just knows that she's there to get away. Like, she doesn't want to be with him anymore. But it's just like, you have somebody coming to your house, whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. So yeah, her dad asks if she hires an attorney. She says she talked to one, but she explained that Robert has control of the money. So the attorney told her in cases like that, the husband pays for both attorneys. And that was another thing of her dad looking at her like, really? You don't have anything? But like I said, the dad doesn't know about the abuse. He just thinks she's in a terrible relationship. So as she's walking out of court with the attorney, attorneys, depending on which one you get, they really don't care because her and Robert are basically sharing the main house, but every 5 days the other one has to move out so the other one can come stay in the house with the kids. So the kids get to stay at home. It's just the parents moving back and forth. And then Robert told the court, I guess, like told the attorneys that she could stay in another house that they have. But the problem is, according to Linda, that house isn't finished and she doesn't have the keys. So how is she going to stay somewhere she doesn't have access to? So her quote unquote attorney tells her that he's an attorney, not a locksmith, and just to trust him to do his job, and he drives off. And it's just like, your client just told you that the house that he claims that she can stay at, she doesn't have access to. So why would you not try to put it in motion to get her access to this house? So I guess she has to move out first and he stays home first, and the kids are very upset. Steven thinks she doesn't love them anymore or wants to be their mother, because she's leaving. And these are small children. I never did get their ages. So they don't completely understand. It's just like mommy's moving out even though she's coming back 5 days later. It's just like the family isn't together. And, like I said, it's been shown that he can be sort of abusive to the kids. So I could see Steven being upset, like, so you're just gonna leave us here with him? And so Robert pulls up, as she's leaving, and she tries to just go to her car without speaking with him or interacting with him, but of course he tries to intimidate her again. He says something to her, she ignores him, trying to just open her door. He slams it back, telling her she'll get nothing. No house, no money, no kids. She'll have nothing, so she might as well end this. Linda, she opens her door again, and when he doesn't do anything, she just gets in and drives away. So Robert goes to meet with a private investigator to follow Linda. He wants to know everything about her, where she goes, what she does, but he wants it off the books, and he wants to pay the guy in cash. And so the guy, it was so weird to me because it was just like, I want it all off the books, because he was writing, I'm going to assume, like a receipt or making out notes. So when he said he wanted it off the books, he does a dramatic showing of him taking a lighter and burning the paper, I guess saying, like they never had any contact with each other. So Linda's at her parents' house, and her dad is reading over some paperwork. And he's like, I can't believe you signed this. Like, what is this? And apparently she signed over the rights of the children's lives over to Robert. And Linda's sister, Miriam, is also there. And she's just like, how could you do something like this? Like, why would you do this? And Linda says, she signed it because her lawyer told her to. And she thought it would stop all the anger and frustration coming from Robert. And her sister tells her, no, you signed it because you're a coward, and you didn't have the backbone to look Robert in his face and tell him no. And once again, not knowing that she's being abused, it's like, of course, why would I tell somebody who I know could slap me or punch me in the face no? yeah, I might just sign this paper. But the sad part is, it's just like, and this is what her dad tells her. She's like, your attorney who's being paid for by Robert, he doesn't have your best interest at heart. He's just getting paid. So, of course, he's going to tell you to sign whatever by the guy who's actually paying him. And her dad tells her, you need to get a new attorney. And Linda reminds him that she doesn't have any money. She's like, a good attorney is somewhere in the upper thousand range, and she doesn't even have, I think, $25, she said, or $2,500. And her dad, it's not funny, but it's just like, it's a laugh of disbelief, because her dad is just looking at her like bewildered that this is his child. And he has hearing aids that he turns up or down, but he tells her, you find the attorney and he'll find, what did he say? You find the attorney and I'll find the money. And then he goes over to the table and takes out the hearing aids and says, now I can't hear anything else you're saying. Like, basically saying, I don't have to listen to your stupid behind anymore. And Linda starts crying because it is overwhelming. It's like everybody's basically telling her how stupid she is, how she doesn't have a backbone, and she's basically left with nothing, and her parents are having to pick up the pieces for her. But then she like goes to the table to sit down, and they just hold each other's hand. And I mean, no disrespect to white people, but this is such a white people thing. It's just like, I don't see how you can exchange these words back and forth. I don't know. It was just so weird. So anyway, Robert meets with the investigator again. He makes the man strip to show that he's not wearing a wire. And he tells him that instead of just following her around, he wants her dead. And the private investigator, whose name is James, he tells him how he used to be in the Army, I think, or the Navy. Which one is the Green Berets? I don't know. But it's just like, he just makes it seem like he was in combat, so he knows how to do things, and he can be very sneaky and crafty, if you will. And it was so funny though, because when he was telling James what he wanted, he made an analogy about the tooth fairy. It's like, with the tooth fairy, how you would make a wish and you would put the tooth under the pillow and you would wake up and find money. So just think of this as the tooth fairy, and all I need to know is how much money do I need to put under my pillow to make my wish come true. So it was just like, what? So when it's Robert's turn to pick up the kids, he brings another woman, and Linda's watching them from the window. But outside, he tells the kids that she's going to be a part of their lives now. And she says something about making their dad happy again. And it's just like, little do you know, he's the reason that everybody is sad and unhappy. But of course, with this new woman, he's going to tell her a whole bunch of lies about it's Linda being the terrible person and tore their family apart. So when Linda is dropping the kids off at school, she catches James snapping pictures of her because he's not doing a very good job at hiding it. It's like, first of all, you have this huge camera, and I'm pretty sure the camera's making noise, like every time a picture is taken. So it's like, when she catches him, he just tries to drop the camera down, but she's standing at her car, like, looking at him. So it's like, she's seen your face now, you dummy. So where are we? So then he goes to Robert, to tell him, like, she saw me. And the kids are with Robert. They're like swimming in the pool, and then they got out to have ice cream. But Robert is giving James the floor plans of the house. He he tells him, he wants it done when he has the kids, so they don't have to see it. And James tells him, she's never alone except when she's at home. He asks, like, what about her parents? And he says, I don't care about her parents. If they're there, do them too. And it's just like, how cold do you have to be to have the conversation about killing your wife while your kids are literally maybe 20 feet away from you having ice cream? You may not want them to see it, but little do they know that they're a part of the conversation. So the private investigator meets with a man named Fred who he promised some work to. And he tells him that that job fell through, but he's looking for someone to commit a murder. And so Fred introduces James to Zach. And Zach agrees to take on the job. So Zach is now following Linda, who now has a new attorney. And the new attorney, that's what it was. I always forget to mention things a part of the story. So when Linda found a new attorney, she had paperwork to prove that she used to help Rob back in the day with how I'm assuming that they like fix houses and resell them, because it's never really clear what he does. It's just clear that he has a lot of money. So it's not like she's just been a housewife all this time. So that's why he wanted to kill her, because I guess that entitles her to more money or money at all. So while she's talking to the new lawyer, there's a shot of Zach like watching her kids, because they're on a carousel. And the lawyer tells her that Robert is forced to let Kathleen dance in a recital even though it's on his weekend, because it's pertaining, I guess, to her school, and this is like a school activity, because if it was up to him, I guess she just wouldn't go. And so at the recital, after Kathleen dances, he comes to like get her, and she says, but I want to watch, like it's not over. And Linda says she wants to watch the rest of the show. That was part of the agreement. So he gets loud. He's like, don't you dare talk to me about an agreement. And it's just like, okay, really? In front of your daughter? And then Dana, who is his girlfriend, that's the girlfriend's name, comes and tells him they're bringing Steven. They wouldn't let me take him. It's like, of course not. I don't even think Linda's parents know her. So it's just like, why would I just hand off my grandson to you? I don't care if you are his girlfriend. No. And so he does this introduction that is so awful. He tells Linda, this is Dana. Dana's my fiance. Then turns to Dana and says, this is the bitch I told you about. It's like, and your daughter is like, he has his hand on his daughter's shoulder. So it's like, again, you put a cigarette in her face. You don't care about her health. You're calling her mom a bitch in front of her, like to her mom. So it's just like, you're blatantly disrespecting her mom. It's like, this man is so awful. So James is meeting up with Zach, and he gives him a list of dates on when he can commit the murder, because those are all the times that Robert will have the kids. So we still have shots of Zach just following her around. Linda gets a call from her attorney telling her to come see him immediately. So while she's driving, she notices someone is following her. It's Zach. And so, she starts driving fast trying to lose him. But he catches up with her. And she gets to her attorney's office and she runs in. Excuse me. actually to find out that he's an FBI agent and his partner was with her attorney. You know, they were waiting on her. But that's the part I didn't get, and I guess it's like for movie dramatics, because if you're an FBI agent, why wouldn't you also be waiting in the office just to see her and tell her? Instead, make her so scared to the point when she gets in the office and she sees you running behind her. You know, there's no explanation for that. Like, why would you just scare her for no reason at all? But they inform her that Robert hired a hit out on her. So they have evidence against James, but not enough against Robert. So they need her to play the part of being dead until they can receive the money from Robert. So then we have Linda and her parents meeting with Zach's partner, Agent Masterson, who involves her parents. You know, telling them what's going on, and the day after she's supposed to be dead, he needs them there for Robert to drop off the kids to, so to pick up the kids. And it happens the night of her 40th birthday. Like, the day after. So she gets to spend her 40th birthday with her family and, you know, just have a celebration with a small cake or whatever. So that night, as she's tucking Kathleen in, Kathleen tells her that her dad and Dana call her bad names, and they force them, the kids, to say them too. And the next morning when she hands the kids off to Robert, they just have a stare down of looking into each other's eyes. That's really like, are supposed to be intense, but it's just really like, okay, like, can we move on? Because I can understand her looking at him like that, because it's like, you're really trying to have me killed because I won't be your punching bag anymore. And he's probably just looking at her like, little do you know, in a few days you're gonna be dead. So now that she's at home alone, Linda is hearing things, but she's paranoid because the FBI agent told her, like, even though we know about the hit, because they're kind of like dragging it along, don't let your guards down, because we don't know if Zach is the only person that's supposed to be doing the hit. He could hire someone else. So with that, you know, she's hearing things, and she grabs a big kitchen knife out of the drawer and is kind of walking through the house where she hears this noise coming from, but it's actually just a window shade hitting the window. Her attorney lets her stay in his cabin while everything is going on, so, you know, she's somewhere tucked away. So Robert is having a dinner party when James calls and says, mission accomplished. So for a moment, he has a look of disbelief. Then he hangs up the phone and proceeds to propose a toast, in which his little speech, he says, cheers to the future and a killer year. And it's just like, really? Could you be more corny? So the next day, her sister Miriam is at her house when the neighbor, who is also her friend, I finally find out that her name is Terry. I told you, these movies, especially Lifetime movies, like, they have a horrible thing of not telling you these people's names till the movie is almost over. But they can't get a hold of Linda or her parents or the attorney Ike. So they go to the police. And Zach gives James a briefcase that has Linda's wedding ring in it, a purse, and clothes with blood on it. You know, to show as proof that he killed her. But James just tells him that he'll be in touch. And on Monday, when Robert returns the kids, he tells Steven tell your mother, come outside, I want to talk to her. It's like, how sadistic can you be? Well, in your eyes, this woman is dead, so you tell your son to tell his mother to come outside. He wants to talk to her. But the grandparents are there, so they come outside to collect the kids. Grandma takes them inside, but Robert is just sitting there, like, waiting to see if she'll come out. And the dad just goes over to this handle that's sticking up out of the ground and twists it. And it's the controller for the sprinkler. So the sprinklers pop up and they spray Robert in his car. And he quickly has to drive away because he's been driving... what is the name of that car? I think Maserati. So it's just like a very small, expensive sports car that he always has the top down on. So he quickly has to drive away. So Agent Masterson talks to Robert and his attorney about Linda's disappearance. Because nobody knows that it's a murder because nobody can find her yet. And of course there's no body. So now it's just a disappearance. Her car was found in Oklahoma with possible blood on the seats. And Agent Masterson asks if they hired a private investigator at any time during this divorce proceeding, because Linda apparently had one, so he just wants to know if they have one. And for a moment, Robert is looking nervous, but his attorney answers for him and says no, they didn't. So Zach goes to Linda and tells her that Robert has filed for sole custody of the children. And she is ready to end this whole thing and just rush back so that doesn't happen. And, you know, he still hasn't paid, so of course it's not over yet. So it's really just a waiting game. And so Agent Masterson tells Grandpa John to take his wife and the kids and get in their motorhome and follow a gray sedan. So he's like, you know, what's going on? He's like, please, just do what I asked you to do. So the FBI has set up a sting at a restaurant with James and Robert. They're both supposed to be coming to meet Zach to make the final payment. The problem is only James shows up. So after they eat together, Zach tells James to put the money in the trunk and then arrest him, demanding to know where Robert is. And at this point, Linda is at the house and she sees a shadow of a man and she hears like walking towards the door. So we would think that it's Robert, you know, like he found out where she was and he's coming to get her. But it's actually another FBI agent, and they brought her parents and her kids to her because Robert was arrested. He went on to work. He didn't even show up to the meeting. And he was placed under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. And he took a plea bargain of 10 years. So Linda got full custody of the kids. She moved back into the house. And she gets to move on with her life. And that's their quote-unquote happily ever after. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Have a wonderful day. Peace.